Ohio political news. We got to kick this off the right way. We have a lot in store. First of all, I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. It's right around the corner. We will be talking with this guy, Chuck Williams. He wrote this book. It's a good book. He's a corrections officer, a prison guard, Youngstown area. He's been doing it. He was doing it for 22 years. He's now retired. Order, PTSD. He suffers from that. Lots of people suffer from it. That was also the reason for writing his book. And interestingly enough, corrections officers have one of the highest incidences of suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So he's going to talk about that. Very fascinating story. Stick around for that. Also, House Bill 315. We have some disturbing news about House Bill 315. But before we do that, we got to wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Everybody, Merry Christmas. Right? Merry
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. It's all our fun to ride in one horse open sleigh.
Hey!
Jingle bells,
But House Bill 315, which was just crammed through the legislature at the last moment, it was 441 pages. All right, so it was like 100 different bills or something. It was just all plowed over at one time because all the lawmakers want to get the heck out of Dodge, want to get out of Columbus, want to go home, want to celebrate Christmas. So they just put all these bills together into one and shoved it over to DeWine's desk for him to sign. One in particular here, it's called the Medical Free Speech Amendment. The Medical Free Speech Amendment. And why is this so important? Well, because it would allow doctors to have free speech protection if they were to give unconventional advice. In other words, why don't you try ivermectin if you want to, or hydroxychloroquine or something like that? So they would be allowed to give alternative advice, but they would tell the patient this is alternative advice. That got shot down. And that is a big problem. Stephanie Stock, who's with Ohio Advocates for Medical Freedom, had a little bit to talk about. This is off of X. This is off of her X profile.
Giving you guys an update on the most recent absolute nefarious activity going on yet again with, that's right, Matt Huffman.
Okay, she's talking about Matt Huffman here, and but he's not the one who has to ultimately veto it. It will be DeWine. But DeWine and Matt Huffman, they work hand in hand on a lot of this pharmaceutical stuff.
One and only. Matt Huffman is holding 315. He hasn't signed it, and until he...
House Bill 315, just so that we're clear about that, okay? House Bill 315, and she is referring to the medical free speech part of it.
Signs it and delivers it to the governor's desk, it doesn't register as being delivered to the governor. So even though it passed already and the House did their job and signed it and turned it in yesterday, Matt Huffman is going to hold it to ensure that when he puts it on the governor's desk, that knowing the governor has 10 days to do a veto, that it will end up going over until the first of the year.
All right, so they're playing some shenanigans there. We'll talk about that here coming up. I want to see who's out there. Brian, how are you tonight? How's it going?
Doing great, Joe. I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm back in the saddle for us. That's great.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Leonard, how are you? How you doing?
I'm in the house as always.
That's that.
All right, glad you're back, Joe.
Hold on. Yeah, great. Excellent. Kent's out there too. Ken, we have to remind everybody that we need them to follow us here on Rumble, right? They got to follow us on Rumble and on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, and on Rumble, hit the follow button.
Also
on Rumble.
X, right?
Follow.
Hit the follow.
We
And
are
X.
one follower away from 1,600 on Rumble. So hopefully, if you're not following us yet, make sure to follow us. But then also share this and like this, because that's another way to build out, because we're trying to expand to all of Ohio. So make sure to share this on X, on Rumble. We will be doing stuff on YouTube again, and we're on Facebook. So share it wherever you see it. We're on all different platforms of Getter, Truth Social. You can name it. We're on there.
And it's all under Ohio Political News, right? So Ohio Political News, anywhere they go, they should be able to find us. We're trying to get out there. Yeah, so please like us, follow us, whatever. Yes, please. All right, so we were looking at
also, Joe, we got to mention we don't mind if they donate also to help us out, defray all these costs that we're incurring.
Yeah, that's right. Please send money and send lots of it, please. We would love you for that. All right. Talking about that House Bill 315, which the House Bill 315 is just it's a bunch of bills, okay? And the last minute they just put them all together, the State House, the lawmakers, because they wanted to go on vacation, like who doesn't, and shoved it over to DeWine, okay? So DeWine is going to either sign it or not, but he can also do what's called a line item veto. So he can pick out an amendment within that. It's 441 pages, that one bill, but it's really a bunch of bills. And one of them that he is going to veto is part of House Bill 315. It's the Medical Free Speech Amendment. The Medical Free Speech Amendment. So if a doctor wanted to say, hey, there's nothing wrong with ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine. You can use that instead of the jab next time, Pfizer and Pfizer or whatever. He would have the ability. The doctor would have the ability to do that. And DeWine said, no way. We ain't going to give that to the doctor. He's not going to have that ability to say that. There's a Department of Health. There's an Ohio State Board of Pharmacy. There's State Medical Board of Ohio. There's other boards, agencies. These are the ones that basically tell the doctors what they can say and what they can't say. I never realized that. Did you guys ever hear
Joe,
of
does that
anything
mean
ridiculous?
they're taking the ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, off the market altogether? I mean, can the individual still buy it somewhere? Do you have to go overseas, or you can buy it from the guy in the corner, or
That's a good question.
it seems like you can buy fentanyl or any other drugs on the street, but you can't get ivermectin and hydrochloroquine.
Right, you could buy that fentanyl off the street. Yeah, now that's a really good point. But I use the ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine as just an example for this bill. But this bill is to allow the doctors to have that freedom to express what they think, okay? It could be a different drug altogether. They would say, hey, this is what I think. You might want to look into this, or the patient may ask them, hey, what's some alternative medications that I could try? They would be able to go that direction. If that's what that bill was all about. The bill was to give the doctor that freedom and not be just tied by the medical pharmaceutical companies. All right, that's what it was about. And apparently they are tied by the pharmaceutical companies, because there's a lot of things they are not allowed to say. They could lose their license. They could actually lose their license in some cases. As ridiculous as that is.
So politicians, once again, are they're supporting and.
Oh, I think we lost Brian for a second there.
Who's donating, to the party, be it Democrats or Republicans, they're all the same.
Yeah, whoever's the big lobbyist for them, giving them the money, which is a big, pharmaceutical companies are giving a lot of money to politicians, no question about it. So you got to play their game. You got to jump through the hoops for them. It's just like, remember back in East Palestine, Ohio, when we had the big railroad company, the derailment and all that. Well, a lot of these politicians get a lot of money from the railroad, Norfolk Southern. They get a lot of money for it. And if you remember, you had to burn up the chemicals in East Palestine. You had to get the railroad company back in moving because that's what the lobbyists want, all right? And you begin to realize that it's really not the politicians that govern us. It's the lobbyists, okay? It's these big companies that that really control us because they control the politicians. And that's just the way it is. But the more that we shine the light on that, the better it is. And this is a perfect example with House Bill 315, the part about the free medical speech being cut off. So that
Leonard and I were asking individuals, how many lobbyists are there in the state of Ohio? I didn't know if it was half a dozen, It's over 200, we were told.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Now, I would assume that they have to register somewhere in the state. And it would be, we'll have to look into that.
We'll have to look to see how, yeah. But see, they're always down in the state house. They're always in the ear of the politicians. The lawmakers say that they don't see anybody out there except the lobbyists half the time.
Yeah, well, Leonard and I were down at the State House for our rally against property taxes, and we just had people just walking right by us. So they're not worried about the average citizen, not at all.
You're talking about lobbyists just walking right past you, right?
Yeah, no, there were some of the politicians.
Oh, they didn't want to talk to you, huh?
Right. And Leonard's sent I don't know how many emails requesting meetings, and there's only been one so far, and that was Brian Stewart, out of a Republican out of Columbus. I think it's District 12 or 13.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? It's just amazing.
Yeah.
We're willing to go down to them. We're not asking them to come to our house. We'll go to their house. It's not good enough, though.
Well, the point, you're a lobbyist. You're a lobbyist for citizens. You have your website and you do things, and you have a podcast and you promote.
Yeah, but those lobbyists are making money. We're doing this, free for the citizens.
Right.
We're just we found out that there was a lot of lobbyists, and this came from the State House and the auditor's office. They said, Brian, there's a lot of lobbyists down here. The only one that doesn't have a lobbyist are the citizens. So that's how we came up with the name. So Leonard and I are out there, pushing as hard as we can, primarily on the property taxes now, but it's still the getting the truth and educating the people. And there's a big pushback, and people are unfortunately, they've just been so enamored with their politicians. They think their job is done when they go to the polling booth and vote for that politician, because that politician will take care of them, they think. And it's not true.
No, it's not true at all. Not true at all. Not true at all. Okay, speaking of, coming up in just a few minutes here, in about 10 minutes or so, we're going to be talking with Chuck Williams. Chuck Williams wrote this book. He is a corrections officer, prison guard, basically. He's got a very interesting story. Post-traumatic stress disorder. He suffers from that. He's going to talk about that. So anybody who suffers from depression and things like that want to hear about his story. And about the prison, because there's a lot of corruption going on in the prison cells, what the inmates go through, what the corrections officer goes through. And it's very interesting. It should be a very interesting discussion, so we'll all participate in that. And if anybody in the chat room wants to participate, please participate. We would love to hear what you have to say with that, especially when Chuck comes on, with any questions or anything. It's good.
We'd love to talk to Chuck about they now call it the new Public Safety Center. It used to be called a jail, but it's now the Public Safety Center that's going to be built. Probably it's going to take at least 4 years to build for Lake County, but it's the biggest project ever financed in Lake County, and it is a new jail. The old jail, built 30-some years ago, it was so poorly built, it can't be fixed. It has to be torn down.
Well, but what people don't realize is what a big part of the budget is for the prisons, the penal institution and all that. It's just lots of money. The budget, it's a big slice of the pie of the budget. Our tax dollars go for these jails.
It's quite an undertaking, Joe. Though I had the opportunity to walk through the existing jail just to see it, and when you think about, feeding, I think they've got 300-400, maybe at most 350, I think it is, prisoners or citizens incarcerated there. By the time you have to, feed them and do all the laundry and that sort of thing, it's quite an undertaking, and people don't realize what they have to go through. And when I walked through there, I didn't feel very safe at all, and I was, just there as a visitor. So I can imagine if you have, larger jails for people that are, convicted for murder and all of the other offenses. It's not an ideal job, I don't think.
Right. No, that's what we're going to talk about. You're absolutely correct. It's not for everybody, that's for sure, being a corrections officer, because like you were saying, you have to watch your back. You have to watch your back all the time when you're doing that. One other thing here on House Bill 315, I want to bring this up. Marcel Stribich also on X had this comment. He's talking to Governor DeWine. He says, how can DeWine justify that the state health regulatory boards have authority over medical free speech? Haven't the people of Ohio suffered enough with the medical board during COVID? We forget about how bad COVID was, how many people just suffered so badly through that whole process. We cannot allow that to happen again. We cannot
100% Marcel's correct.
Yeah, he's 100%.
And how about all those seniors that died alone, in these nursing homes?
Right, and you weren't even allowed to go to funeral homes and stuff like that. He says something has gone terribly wrong in this country when patients come last and doctors get silenced by threats of losing their license. Yeah. They practice safe medicine, and they are daring to not be limited to prescribing what non-practicing industry-aligned boards dictate. Yeah, you're being told by some boards. You're being told by some boards what it is you can prescribe and what you can't. Department of Health, the Ohio State
Board
of
Pharmacy. Have they removed the Hippocratic oath from being a doctor? Anybody know? Where they swear to do no harm? Is that more just a suggestion, like everything else, and not really a commandment?
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll have to. I don't know what kind of oath
it's still there.
I don't know what kind of oath they take.
It's still there, is it, Leonard? They just don't follow it.
But, well, it all depends on your doctor. I mean, one thing I'm confused about is that with my relationship with my doctor, I pretty much dictate what I'm going to do, and he just gives me some info. Well, yeah, you could do that. So I tell him I'm going to do ivermectin. He says, okay. He said, you're going to take the shot? Nope. End of story. I'm out of his office. I go get the ivermectin or whatever else I want to try, and he just says, okay. He said, let me know how that works out. He said, I'm interested in that, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. No, you got a good doctor then. Because I remember,
I had a doctor for 30-some years. He said, well, you should have had the shot yesterday. And, followed up with all the boosters. So thank goodness he's retired. I'm now looking for another doctor.
No, I got
But that will be an indicator when I talk to the new doctor. How do you feel about the COVID vaccine? So that'll be a measurement of whether or not I'm going to, stay with him as a new doctor.
Well, these doctors today, I had a checkup not too long ago, and the doctor, he just wanted to keep popping pills into my mouth. Now, I'm the kind of person, I don't go for any of that, okay? I don't even take aspirin when I have a headache. I just don't believe in it. I believe, the body will heal itself for the most part, unless it gets too out of extreme or something. But no COVID shots, nothing like that. But he wanted to know, okay, well, you should be taking something for blood pressure just in case. You should be taking something for sugar just in case. My sugar level came down, so it's in the safe range now. Oh, but it could go back up. You should be taking something. It was just one thing after another. You just wanted a pill. You wanted me just popping pills like it was candy. No way. And he's a young guy. He hadn't been out of medical school very long. I guess this is what they tell their new students and everything. Hey, you know what? This is kind of an interesting story. I want to show you this. Do you guys know who this lady is?
No, I don't know.
Anybody have an idea who it is? Her name is Kay Granger. Kay Granger. All right. What's so special about Kay? Kay is a congresswoman from Texas. She's been a congresswoman for 30 years. No one had seen her in 6 months. She's been in Congress, but for the last 6 months, she hasn't showed up or anything. You know where they finally found her? She's in a nursing home in the dementia ward. This is not a joke. She's 81 years old.
Gosh.
She's in the dementia ward in a nursing home. That's where she's been for the last 6 months. Apparently, nobody's told Congress.
So they've been sending the checks to her house? I'm so sorry that she's got dementia, but that doesn't mean she still gets paid.
She's not the only one, Brian. There's actually two gentlemen that they had. I forgot their names, but they were just receiving checks and they were no shows. And they finally, one guy they were pushing him into a meeting. He was in a wheelchair, and he got upset because people were taking pictures of him. And he started, cursing at him and everything else. And I'm sitting there thinking, I mean, my goodness. This is like they haven't even been in a meeting, so they're not even consciously aware of what's going on around them.
That's true of Joe Biden, though, Leonard. Joe or Mitch McConnell, right?
Exactly.
Last time I saw Mitch when he froze up in front of the microphone, I said, my goodness, he's got problems.
I mean, these guys, I mean, come on, give me a break here. Colin Rugg wrote this on X. He said Republican Representative Kay Granger is living in a senior care facility, according to Dallas Express. Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, and now Kay Granger. They're taking falls, losing their cognitive abilities. Let's see, McConnell, like you were saying, he busted his face open and hurt his wrist when he fell. Pelosi broke her hip. Granger, she's in the dementia ward, for crying out loud. She's in the dementia ward. And he says, we deserve better. I think we do. This is so insane. These people get into office. This is why we have to have term limits. They get into office and they're there literally until they're in the nursing home, and then they just hang out in the nursing home until it's
Thank God we're saying bye to Joe. Screw the woke, screw the woke, screw the woke. And the mainstream media's dying, their viewers shaving their heads and crying. What is a woman? Well, they still don't know. Screw the woke, screw the woke, screw the woke. They tried to stop us by taking his life, but they missed, so it's fight, fight, fight. The left really thought they'd beat the right, and they fought, but they lost, thank the Lord. Now January is coming. Half of Hollywood's already running. They're finding new countries to call home. Screw the woke, screw the woke, screw the woke. Diddy locked up, it's been swell. And Epstein didn't kill himself. Hunter smoking crack with ho ho ho.
Let it snow.
Screw the woke.
Let it snow.
Screw the woke.
Bum, bum.
Everybody, Merry Christmas, right? Merry Christmas.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
Hey!
Jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
And
We will
Musk
create
is
the new
not
Department
going
of
to be the
Government
president.
Efficiency, headed by Elon Musk. And no, he's not taking the presidency. I like having smart people. You know, they're on a new kick. Russia, Ukraine, all the different hoaxes. And the new one is President Trump has ceded the presidency to Elon Musk. No, that's not happening.
All right, not bad. Hey, I think we have made communication with our guest tonight. How you doing, Chuck?
Hey, how you doing there, Joe?
Hey, it's good to see you. It is really, really good to see you. So I've been promoting it a little bit here about what we're going to discuss here. I got your book. I got the book.
Hey, there
I
you
got
go.
it right here, and I got it autographed by you too, by the way. So
Yes, you did.
It could be worth something someday.
Yeah, what you paid for it.
So anyhow, let me bring you in here. So we want to get a discussion going here about a little bit about your life and also about the life as a correction officer and some of what it's like to be an inmate, to be a prison guard, and some of the corruption. I know that there is some corruption going on in that as well. So we want to get into that. But again, where do you live, Chuck? I never did ask you that. Where do you live?
I am Liberty, Ohio. I'm about 3 miles north of the thriving metropolis of Youngstown.
Okay. Oh, about 3 miles, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a Youngstownite, is really what you are. A Youngstownite.
We're in a different county, Trumbull County versus Mahoning County. So we don't really like to say Youngstown. We're far enough away. It's only 3 miles, but believe me, it's far enough away.
Okay, so we got an idea where you're at. That's good to hear. All right, so let's. I'm going to dive in a little bit from the book, and then we'll just go whatever direction makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to start off kind of young here, but we'll move through it kind of fast here. I got a question for you. Reading the book, it said that you dropped out of high school 2 months before graduation. What was that all about? Why'd you do that?
I had already set my sights on joining the service. So I joined the service, and I get into about 6 weeks of boot camp, and our sergeant lined about 4 of us up and said there will be a blue school bus picking you up at 4:30, and be prepared to go to high school. And a bus picked us up, and it held about 40 airman basics, and they drove us to the base high school, and we attended high school from 5 o'clock in the evening till 8:30 at night, and we were not going to be able to graduate boot camp until we graduated high school. So in essence, it was easier to have graduated your regular high school than it was to graduate with a GED from United States Air Force high school. So in essence, I wasn't a very wise
I just thought that was kind of interesting. 2 months to go, and then just kind of Hey, listen, let's see, 1985, is that when you got married to Pam? Was it 1985?
Yes.
Okay, so I got that correct. You were a boiler operator in Youngstown.
Yes.
And you probably lived 3 miles outside of Youngstown. All right.
Right.
Now, this is an interesting part of your life, and this is a lot of what the book centers on is post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, and I think you suffer from that, but you're dealing with it, and a lot of people suffer with stuff like that, depression and different things. So that's a big part of you writing this book, to help people realize, because there's a lot of depressed people out there. There's a lot of people that are depressed and need help. Okay, it kind of sounds like it hit bottom for you. Was this shortly after you got married? You said you thought about committing suicide, but on the surface you had a good job, you had a good wife, you had kids, you had a house in the suburbs, but yet you thought about committing suicide, and you decided to do it. Well,
essentially, it was over alcoholism. I didn't suffer from PTSD at that time. It was alcoholism. The way I treated my wife, my 2 children, my cowardness. So it was easier for me to take an easy out. And so I borrowed a .38 from a buddy, drove to a secluded area, pulled the trigger, and the gun didn't go off. And I immediately called the alcohol clinic, and they said they wouldn't have a bed ready for me. And I said, "We'll save that bed for someone else." And I had called Arch 11, which is Hillside Hospital, an alcohol-related facility, and they said, "Come on up." So it was right before Thanksgiving, a couple weeks before, and they had a bed for me, and I'd gone through their detox program, but they also offered AA, and that was a success for me. And I've been sober 38 years. Well, 1994, I was able to obtain a job at the state prison system, and I thrived in that. But over those 20 plus years, I had seen murders and escapes and stabbings, and not knowing how it had affected me. And in the book, you'll see some things that I had done that were pretty outrageous. And I was things that
let's do this.
People wouldn't do.
Let's do
Pardon
this. Yeah, let's do this for a second. And Leonard or Brian, if you guys want to chime in, and if there's anybody in the chat who wants to chime in as well, because to me, I want this discussion not only to hear about you and the prison life and stuff, but also people that suffer from this depression, this post-traumatic stress disorder, or something similar to that. I mean, somebody that suffers from that. What would you say? They got to get help. They got to reach out to people, right?
Absolutely. Well, essentially, what the prison done, they had sent me to a state psychiatrist, and it was supposed to be a 15-minute interview because some of the things I did weren't. I was endangering myself and other people, and it ended up being a 2.5-hour interview, and that state psych determined that I had post-traumatic stress disorder, and removed me from my job with that, and I was placed on psychiatric disability, but I could work anywhere except in the prison settings, and that's how you and I had met. So I still go to counseling. I'm on some medications. I still attend AA meetings after 38 years. What I suggest, if you're feeling or have anxieties or thoughts of suicide or depression, is to reach out to the company you work for. They should have an EAP, which is a employees assistance program. Seek help, make phone calls, try to seek counseling. If you're doing things such as heavy gambling or drinking excessively, or have suicidal thoughts, or withdrawing from people, you are suffering from something, especially withdrawing from family or friends. There's many phone calls you could make. Counseling. Go speak to your HR department. It's not held against you, and it's confidential. There's many places to call, and you should probably reach out.
Okay. Let's. As far as the post-traumatic stress syndrome, you were saying that corrections officers have one of the highest percentages of it.
Yes.
And why is that?
Well, in the state of Ohio, you have approximately 54,000 to 57,000 inmates, and there are only 7,500 corrections officers. There are 2 officers to every 124 inmates in the housing units, and you have keys and handcuffs, and you carry pepper spray. So the odds aren't very good in an altercation. You see some horrific horrific things. When there's altercation, you're outnumbered big time. And the inmates let you go home. You don't determine if you go home or not. It's controlled chaos. The inmates run the prisons. The state gives the public feel-good stories. Oh, the inmates have a garden. The inmates take care of dogs. Yada yada yada. Yeah, it's a feel-good story for the public. The inmates run the asylum.
So your life was in danger, you're saying, as an officer.
Oh,
it was in danger.
Yeah, you walk through those gates, you hear the big gate slam behind you, and you literally don't know if you're going home. Inmates have weapons, they have cell phones. With the computer systems, they could give your name to their loved ones, and they could Google where you live, your phone number. They have access to everything. You have limited access to their gangs, their family. They can make a phone call on their cell phone and find out everything about you, find out where you live, the whole 9 yards, find out about your family. So you're in danger quite a bit. Like I said, they let you go home. There's fights constantly. You're assaulted constantly. And the governor, Kasich, and DeWine, they put you at jeopardy. You're a number. When you leave, someone else fills in for you. The feel-good stories that the victim's family think these inmates are being punished, they're not. Inmates come back. The recidivism rate is outrageous.
Yeah, let's talk about that a second. So when somebody leaves the prison system, who's going to hire them? And what do they have to offer to society? They're not going to be able to get a job, right? So it's just like they're going to end back in, right? They're going to have to steal or do something to make some money.
Commercial driver license classes that they could get their commercial driver's license. They have all kind of programs that companies come in for training days to help them get jobs. They're taken care of very good. They'll hire them when they get out of prison. So the woe is me inmate is no longer. They're given, universities come in and they're able to obtain college credits. So it's ridiculous. Their inmates are well taken care of. So the stories of them not being able to get a job is null and void. The reason they can't get a job is because they don't want one. Plain and simple. They have culinary classes. I mean, it's ridiculous. If they want employment, all they have to do is reach out and get it.
That's if they want it. I want to ask you a question here. Again, we got some of the information out of your book. It's called Duty, Honor, Corrections. All right, Chuck Williams. It's a good book. I'm not doing it justice tonight. I am not doing the book justice. Can you comment? This I thought it was kind of interesting. There was a prison inmate named Hector Gonzalez. You said that he was a bad, MFer. 2 life sentences for gang murder. Sounds like he was one of the worst of the worst. When he died, you make the comment here that the devil came for his soul. Is that right? Can you just talk a little bit about that whole thing?
we were in the infirmary. He was dying. He sat up, if I recall right. He had sat up, and he had this terrified look. He was staring out, and he was terrified, and it just scared to death. And I looked over to see where he was looking at, and it was just four walls. And I said, "They're coming for you, ain't they?" And he just stared, and scared to death. And I said, "They're coming for you." And I said, "The demons." And he just stared off and laid back and passed away. So I believe that the devil himself came to get him. He had murdered, I believe, several people. And I think he gave them the Cuban necktie where he slit their throat and pulled their tongue through their throat. And yeah, he was just absolutely petrified.
That is a scary. That's a scary story. And it sounded like you felt the presence of demonic or evil in that area, and on multiple occasions too within the prison, which is a very scary thought.
When we had, I believe, roughly 1,500 inmates, and there were times where you just felt evil. It was uncanny the amount of evil that were in those buildings, especially when you worked midnight turn. Very unsettling, and the inmates are asleep. And on midnight turn, there was only one officer per unit, and it was a sense of evil when you worked in those units alone. So it was one officer and 124 inmates. Just a very eerie presence.
Well, I'm going to go over to Brian. Brian, look at you on
Hi,
the
Chuck.
conversation. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for thanks for joining us. I do have questions. I live in Lake County, and the jail or the prison that you worked at, did they have was that a 30-day jail sentence, or could they be sentenced to life in your jail?
We were anywhere from 10 to life.
Okay.
We had inmates that were doing what we called Buck Rogers time. That was 880 years plus.
Wow.
We had Ronnie Shelton, the West Side rapist from Cleveland. He, at the time I knew him, I had already known him 20 years, and he got transferred to Grafton. And I think it finally set in that he was never going home. And when he was in Grafton, he jumped off the top range and committed suicide. Yeah, he was a little fella, good-looking guy. And
what they've done in Lake County, they've decided to replace their existing jail, and they're going to spend, if it goes out, for the full term, about $250 million on a jail. Then what they said was they're going to switch from the incarceration model to a rehabilitation model. And I'm just wondering, do you think this rehabilitation model, which means that they'll be spending much more money, bringing in counselors of all sorts, is that, again, it's not a long-term jail. It's a, minimum time. I think it's 30 days, I believe.
Okay, what are you going to rehabilitate in 30 days?
Yeah, that was our thought.
Yeah, I mean, is that a county jail?
Yes. Yeah,
Right,
county jail.
How many commissioners are getting a kickback?
Well, I know the commissioners, and they're pretty straightforward guys. I wouldn't say that they are, but
then what sheriff?
I just wondered. they're going to build it. It's going to be beautiful. But I've never talked to anyone that says, "Well, I'm going to move to Lake County because they've got a great looking jail."
Okay, how many homeless are in Lake County?
There's quite a few. I don't know the number.
Okay.
There's quite a few.
All right. What cities encompass Lake County?
What cities? Well, it goes from the west to on the west side. We've got Wickliffe, Willowick, Willoughby Hills, and it goes out to Madison and Paynesville.
Okay. Avon, or
no, it wouldn't be Avon. That would be west side.
Mentor?
This is all east side. Yeah, Mentor.
Would that be Mentor?
Yes, Mentor.
Okay.
Yeah, Mentor's in there.
Okay. Well, what do you have? Senior citizen organizations.
Yes.
Okay.
Many of them.
Do the elderly have substantial food programs?
All of
Probably
them have food program. We got food banks all throughout the county.
$250 million worth?
Don't know that number, but that's an interesting number.
I'll bet you not.
Hey,
What are you going to do?
So
with
you think
Let's,
part of it is it homelessness where I've been told that the homeless will commit some type of crime just to get into the jail, to get out of
Well,
out
certainly
of the
they will. I mean, what type of rehabilitation can you offer with a 30-day jail sentence?
That seems. I didn't realize he even had that. A 30-day jail sentence. That seems ridiculous.
DUI.
Oh, okay, stuff like that. So, Brian,
Yeah.
it's $250 million. They're going to build this new jail facility. 30 days. That's
Yeah.
all. $250 million. So, what do you think of that, Chuck? Is that a waste of money, or is that a good?
Absolutely.
Okay, why? Why is it such a big waste?
Well, how many pods are you going to have? You're going to. I mean, my goodness, did the citizens of Lake County even vote on that?
Oh, that's a very good question. No, the commissioners tried to pass a sales tax, 0.5% sales tax, but then they reversed it, and they were going to put it in the general fund so the people wouldn't get a chance to vote on it.
There
so
you
they
go.
were deciding
so that tells
for
me
us.
that you got some dirty commissioners, and I said it. They should run for state government. That's ludicrous.
I know them. I know them pretty well, and I think they're all straight shooters. They're all good, Christian
Well,
men.
you should
but
question that.
okay,
And I'm not trying to be ignorant, but what the hell are they going to do with $250 million jail?
it's going to be a very nice jail, but they've got. I think they can house.
Listen,
It's going to be a beautiful jail. Come on, what more do you want? Now,
you sound like a Democrat, for God's sakes. And I just met you, and I'm not trying to be rude.
Oh, now Chuck, that really hurts, Chuck.
Well, it should.
okay, Chuck, let's talk. Let's talk
They're
a minute
trying to-
along the same lines. I want to get into some of this stuff here. For what is some of the corruption that's going on inside the jail cells? Not necessarily with the inmates, but like what Brian was just saying. This $250 million facility.
Okay,
that they're
they
building.
sold-
What's some of the corruption going on?
They spent $250 million down at Pickaway Correctional to remodel it, to close it.
Wow.
How's that sound?
Yeah. So what are some
They
of the what are some of the big issues about corruption with the correction
They spent
facilities?
$200 million at Pickaway Correctional in 2014 to remodel it a year before they sold it.
Wow.
They closed it.
So what you're saying is the $200 million that was spent, that went to some contractors who have
Ties to Kasich.
ties to Kasich back then, and
that's the same year that Attorney General DeWine made medicinal marijuana legal. And the two out of the three companies eligible to grow it Two of them were tied to Kasich in that scam out of New York City that Kasich was involved with, that financial group.
Wow.
Recall that?
No, I don't recall that.
I
one.
don't
Do you,
recall it. No, I don't. But wow, I mean, I didn't start the corruption stuff till fairly recently. I wasn't in politics that much with Kasich. That's about the time I started to say, wait a minute, something ain't right.
He was out of New York City. He was involved with that company, and Kasich is out of New Jersey, and then all of a sudden he moves to Ohio and he runs for governor.
Chuck, what do you think about the passage of the marijuana law in Ohio? Our representative Jamie Callender was supporting that.
The citizens voted for it. Okay, whether the three of us agree with it, it was voted for by the citizens, as well as abortion. And now DeWine was fighting the legalization after it was approved. So what's that tell you?
Yeah.
He's a feel-good guy.
Yeah, it tells you that if he was serious about stopping it, he would have did it before it was approved. That's what a lot of politicians will do. If a politician, let me just tell you something about politicians. Let's say that you are against gun ownership, all right? And there's a bill, and it's going to pass that says no more guns. You'll vote in favor of against it just because there's enough votes so that you look good. They're always trying to look good. Okay,
right.
That's a big part of being a politician. You got to know how to play your cards and look good. Whatever else? What about things like with the food service connected to the what's that's corrupt, right?
I forget year, maybe 2012, 2013. I'm not quite sure. They got rid of all state food service employees, and they hired Airmark, which is the world's largest food service vendor. They were awarded the contract because they could feed inmates for $1 a meal. So you figured 57,000 inmates. $1 a meal. So one meal, breakfast, is $57,000 times 3 meals a day times 7 meals or 7 days a week times 300 and plus meals, times 30 days times 12 months. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of money. So the quality of the food went down. $1 a meal, but they get paid $1 a meal whether an inmate eats or not. So as wardens retired, some of the wardens were put on as liaisons between Airmark and the state, paid by Airmark. A lot of food service employees were hired by Airmark at roughly $60,000 a year, which, it's crazy. A lot of rice, twice a day. So rice doesn't cost a whole lot. Cereal, a lot of cabbage. So the expense Airmark was putting out was minimal. So when you have hungry inmates, you have angry inmates. So our fights and assaults went up. Also, another thing was the company that sold clothing boxes and food boxes to the inmates. Each inmate was allowed 1 box a year, paid for out of monies from families of the inmate. But that vendor that sold those items was an ex-inmate. Big money. So a lot of contraband was sent through those boxes. We also, at my prison, there was a vending company that provided vending to the officers and staff. Our particular prison was to send bids out for that once a year. Our prison didn't bid on it for 10 years. Didn't have bids sent out. Come to find, our deputy warden was receiving an envelope so that vendor would receive that contract once a year for 10 years. And when it was investigated, he shredded all the evidence. And that was a big
There's I just found out that the number one vendor in Lake County is it's a mental health nonprofit, and they got $27 million from Lake County for, I think it was 2020 through 2024.
For the county sheriff?
I don't know that. They just said it's mental health. I don't know if kids or if it's all school, but I know that they're providing mental health services for the inmates. Is that a huge problem with the mental health? I would think so.
Yeah, but how many cells do you have in for the inmates?
I think we have 350 now, and I think it's going to go up to about 600 with the new jail. And they said no additional operating costs because of the sophistication of security that they couldn't have in the existing facility.
Well, when you have 30-day inmates, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, with the new rehabilitation.
Go ahead, Leonard.
Yes, Leonard.
Mr. Williams, thank you very much for participating with us tonight.
Yes.
The information is very informative. One of the things, too, Brian, I wanted to add to your statement was that they said that in addition to the regulars that they have, if you can use that term, they also use it for overflow from other areas. So they actually, from my understanding, they'll be paid by these other entities, all right, that will actually house these inmates if they have an overflow, which they do expect that from time to time. So that was another mechanism for bringing in money to pay for this facility. And the other thing, as far as rehabilitation, I mean, it goes back to what Mr. Williams was saying. If you don't want to do anything with all these things available to you, you can make that choice not to do it. We set up an environment that's conducive for them not to have a desire to do it. And just to give you an example, I remember vividly when I was a bad boy, and still a bad boy, mentally, spiritually, that is. But when we got in trouble, they didn't just put us behind bars. We had to pay restitution. They looked at all the damage that we caused, and then they said it cost this much, and then they made us work, and we had to pay it all back. My first job was on a construction site, and I was pulling out nails out of wood, and I had to stoke the fire to keep the construction workers warm during the wintertime. So we had labor associated with anything that we got involved in. It wasn't just a free ride. So our whole notion of how we look at prison now, I mean, it's like you're really just babysitting and promoting an environment that's conducive for someone to say, well, I got it made. There's no need for me to do anything to make improvements. So when I look at the whole system itself, that you're talking about reformation, and that needs to be reformed completely. I don't know where Mr. Williams is as far as the death penalty and things like that, but I mean, there's some cases that are just what I call open and shut cases, but yet for some reason we'll work around it to try to put someone up for the rest of their lives, and then we're just going to take care of them. So you're just promoting a perpetual cycle of failure in a system that's designed not to really help people, but to actually just keep them confined to a certain area. That makes no sense to me at all. And maybe I'm all off base on this because, like I said, it's been a long time since I've gotten in trouble, but my taste of it is totally different than what I'm hearing now compared to the time I was in trouble. So
Mr. Gilbert,
that's where I am.
Mr. Gilbert.
Yes, sir.
Bravo. I don't know when you were in trouble, but when I started the prison system, every convict, they were convicts when I started, they worked, everybody had a job, they got up, they had breakfast, they showered, and they went to their assigned job. And they worked. And they had a self-worth. And they accomplished things. In today's prison system, they don't have to work if they wish not to. And they have no contribution to their existence. And when they get out of prison, they recommit because they don't know how to live. And I commend you for where you're at today.
Yeah, very good. I don't know, we'll just go around the horn one more time, and if you have a final question, Brian, for
just it's more of a statement for our guest. Congratulate him on 38 years of being sober. I know that's not easy at all, and because we've had that in our family, and it impacts the entire family. So I say congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is quite an accomplishment. I mean, that is a major accomplishment. Leonard, anything you want to say? Last statement or something for Chuck?
Yeah, just another comment. I know a lot of people that I've worked with, as far as using medications to help them out with certain problems. But another thing that's missing, and this is where I fault the church quite a bit, there's a spiritual component to life also. You can't deny that. And you can medicate so much, but also there's a spiritual component of life. And we all have a need for that spiritual component. So if we try to medicate and forget about that part of it, then you're gonna have another void that's going to create another issue, and you may be on the surface thinking you're resolving an issue, but if you don't dig a little deeper from the spiritual side to include both the spiritual and sometimes as well as the medication, because it could be needed depending on the circumstances, you got to look at the entire picture. And we don't look at the whole person. I think Mr. Williams said that you got to look at the whole person, and that person has to have a sense of worth and a sense of existence. And if that doesn't happen, like I said, you can medicate all you want. It ain't going to fix anything. So with that, I just wanted to say, I know we're getting ready to close, but I want to say I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas. I pray that everyone has a safe New Year. And God bless all you guys for what you do. And God willing, we'll continue doing our work that we have to do on our end.
Thank you, Leonard. Chuck, one last question, maybe in closing or anything. What if you could make some changes to the prison system, all the experience and everything you've witnessed and all that, what would that be?
Honestly, to take the youth that are incarcerated and just show them a couple things: their self-worth, power of prayer, and to show them that they're not lost. To teach them a trade, and depending on how long they're going to be incarcerated, that there is a beginning for them. It's not the end.
Very good. Well, thank you again. Yeah, thank you again for being a guest here. Here's the book. I have the autographed version of it. Okay, so but it's really good, and it's an easy read, but it's very interesting. It's very interesting, and it's kind of neat the way we kind of crossed paths at the nursing home and stuff, and talked a little bit, and was able to get you on.
I wasn't. Joe didn't come to visit me. We were delivering the same day.
Right. I was making a delivery, and he was making a delivery, and he kind of got in my way. He said, "Get out of my way!" And we started fighting. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it was great to Great to see you and run into you. So as God's doing, I'm sure. Well, have a Merry Christmas, Chuck. Happy New Year.
You as well, and all your panel. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. So, well, have a good night, and I'm going to leave it here with Trump. I'm going to leave it with Trump here.
Everybody, Merry Christmas. Right? Merry Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Oh, what fun. We can all sing along.
In one horse open sleigh.
Hey!
Jingle bells, jingle all
Can I
the
do the
way.
Trump dance at the same time?
Fun it is to ride in
In a
one-horse
one-horse open sleigh. Have a good night, everybody. See you.
Good night.
Joe.
All right, bro.
Good night. Bye,
Take
Larry.
care, Joe.
Good.